Fisherman's Post. More fish, more often.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode is titled Double Dippin' the Tar, Stripers and Shad. And I'm going to be talking to Captain Mitchell Blake of FishIBX out of Chakawinity. We're going to be talking about that overlap timeline where you can get out on the tar and catch both species. And we're going to talk about striper lures and tactics, shad lures and tactics. My name is Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community since 2003. We've been bringing you fishing reports, fishing information, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, and now here in our latest and greatest efforts, the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series, where we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their thoughts, their insights on how to catch more fish more often. In this endeavor, I'm joined, just as I am in every episode, I'm joined by Billy Thorpe of Thorpe Creative. Billy, happy to be back in the saddle, getting ready to talk fishing.
Hey, what's up, Gary? Good to see you, man. Always a good time to be on the podcast, talking fishing, hearing about fishing, living through other people's experiences of fishing. I enjoy it all. It's good. I just close my eyes and imagine. So yeah, man, it's a good time, man. All is going well in your world, I hope.
All is going well, man. Recently got a haircut, trying to clean my act up a little bit. And yeah, man, I'm actually very excited for the upcoming season. You know, a little bit more work ahead of me before I can maybe pull back on the gas pedal a little bit. But man, I am optimistic for this year. I'm looking forward to a great 2022.
Yeah, man, we got a big year, good year for the podcast, big year, got a special announcement coming up. But before we get to it, I do want to shout out a few of our sponsors here. The first one is Bland Landscaping Co. We got Bland Landscaping, and they are they reached out to us and said, hey, we love the show, we want to be a part of it. And so they came on as a sponsor, and they're looking to recruit people, Gary. So it's not just a hey, we want you to do business with us. They're looking to recruit like-minded people who enjoy the outdoors, being with family, being with friends, want to wake up early, get to work early, come home early, get on the boat, get in the woods, all that fun stuff. So if you're looking for a new career, not you, Gary, but everyone else listening or watching, then this is the place to go. Go to landscapingco.com/careers and so they have their North Carolina business. Really, really great operation over there, and we really appreciate their sponsorship for 2022. Excited to have them on.
Yeah, man, I like the relationship. You know, when you announced them, I thought it made a good fit. I passed their office. I mean, one of their offices off when I'm driving south. You know, they're in the supply sort of Charlotte area. And man, I like what they stand for. And again, I just think it's a good fit for our podcast, for our podcast community. And I certainly hope we're helping them recruit some of the right people, man. I like what they're about.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Good people over there, and a lot of good benefits on that job list. I did go check it out, you know. So, in case this podcast thing doesn't work out, but anyway, no, it's gonna work. It's gonna work out really good. It's been fun. So, all right, and then our next sponsor, which is the longest running one, is Marine Warehouse Center. They got a couple locations, one here in Wilmington, one in the Charleston area as well, and then they also ship worldwide. I just want to make sure I mention that because that's a big service that they offer. I get a quick little message from them, and we'll be right back.
In Warehouse, we have everything. We have new boats, we have parts, we have accessories, new trailers, we have a complete service department with highly trained technicians. Anything you need to get out on the water, we have it.
At Marine Warehouse Center, as we've grown over the last few years, now have a large selection of marine supplies from start to finish for all your boating needs.
What I love about this region is to be able to get out on the water, and also we love to be able to get you out on the water.
The best part of working at Marine Warehouse is being able to get involved with the customers and share a love for the water.
There you go, Gary. It's warming up, man. You got to go. You got your boat ready. Is it out yet, or is it still getting work done at the time?
Actually, and this wasn't even calculated, but actually I went today. I picked up my boat today from Marine Warehouse Center. So I've got my boat. Nice. It's all ready for the 2022 season. And man, Emmett happened to be out in the yard, and yeah, man, things were happening. You know, lots of going on in the service department. They were getting some new Carolina skiffs delivered. Some of them already bought, but some of them not. So they're actually starting to, you know, like other boat dealers, starting to see some inventory there as well. And yeah, man, there's just there's
Yeah.
definitely energy abound. Like, it's clearly the season is right around the corner, especially when we're having such, warm months here early in the season. I mean, warm days here early in the season.
Yeah, man. I imagine. Well, I imagine they're busy, but if you still need their service, their help, be sure to get in there sooner than later. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in the garage while everybody else is out suntanning their bums or whatever. So anyway,
And be sure to stop by and give Terrell some jokes, because Terrell, he's struggling, and might even bump you up the line. I mean, maybe if you make them laugh, maybe they'll put you ahead in the service line. I don't know how that works. I mean, I can't promise that, but why not ask? I can see no harm in asking. And I do have a joke if you're ready.
I'm ready when you are, Gary. I'm excited.
But don't be
Kinda.
excited. Terrell's joke, not mine. To be
All right.
clear, why didn't the mate play cards?
Why didn't it make? No, don't know.
Because the captain was standing on the deck.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Terrell's getting better. The last couple were good ones. It's ringing them in there.
Maybe he's getting better. Maybe it's the spring. Maybe it's the spring
Yeah.
air. Maybe it's the busyness around the shop. Maybe he's trying harder. He's coming out of the winter months
Yeah.
where he's been overeating comfort food. Maybe he's ready to go. I don't know.
And who knows? Maybe he went and did a little tour at the comedy shows. Comedy stops this winter while it's slow times, and get refresh his little joke list or whatever. Or his
He
little
should do
set,
homework.
so.
He should be doing homework. He should not just, he needs to make it happen. I'm with you.
Well, Gary, I got a little fish picture for you real quick before you guys get into it. This is John Keene with one of the mini stripers he landed while fishing the Roanoke River. I barely could get that fish into the frame there. So good work, John. Looks like a pretty good fish. I mean, much smaller than what Gary's caught, but you gave it a good shot.
Yeah, he did great. John did great. I'll give him that. All right. Yeah, man. We'll come back again. I'm going to start talking with Mitchell. Come back. We got a big announcement, that we've been making, a project we're very excited about. But still, even with a big announcement, that does not get you off of Billy's best
All right.
takeaway.
I'm
We
excited.
have to keep tradition. And one of the traditions is Billy's best takeaway. So after my conversation with Mitchell, coming back to you. But yeah, man, right now I'm going to turn the camera on to share it with Mitchell. Welcome to the show, Captain Mitchell Blake. Welcome back to the show, Captain Mitchell Blake of FishIBX out of Chakawinity. I'm glad you're giving us some time for the podcast before you head to the Taco Bell drive-thru. And I'm excited to be talking fishing with you, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys having me. Hey, I've got a joke for you.
All right.
Nah, I better not use that one. I'll tell you that one next time I see you. It's a good one, man.
Deal. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to tease the audience like that. I don't think the audience is happy, but I'm cool.
They want to hear it too, man. It is a good one. It's a good one.
You're not helping. You're not. All right, listen, Mitchell Blake, even though you're a longtime friend, even though you're a return guest, you are not exempt from two questions. As soon as you're ready for question number one, I will deliver.
Question number one.
Why should we listen to anything you have to say about a striper, about a shad, about the Tar River, any of it?
So I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue why you should listen. It changes all the time. You probably shouldn't even listen to me, but I guarantee you I'll have you scratching your head.
All right. So you tease with a joke that you're not going to tell, and then you basically give us no reason to listen to you. I'm loving the direction of this podcast. This is one of my favorites so far. As tradition goes, you got question number two is a non-fishing related question. Are you ready for question number two?
Question number two.
FishIBX. And I'm focusing on the IBX. Sounds a lot like IBS. And so your questions have to do with IBS. I need your opinion. The following statements, are they myths or truths? Statement number one, myth or fact? 2/3 of people with IBS are women.
Fact.
That is a fact. Myth or fact? More people under 50 have IBS than people who are over 50.
Myth.
Fact. Last one. 10 to 15% of the world's population has IBS. Fact it is. Congratulations. 2 out of 3. You are cleared to advance. And so here we go. I got to tell you, man, I like your title, Double Dipping the Tar. I love the idea because I've enjoyed this fishery with you where we're catching stripers. And then once we're content, we go and say, hey, man, let's just go catch some shad for fun as well. So I'm in. But set us up, man. This is not a year-round fishery where they overlap on the tar. So set the stage here, man. What is the timeline? And, and brief me a little bit about the tar itself.
All right, check this out, man. I just got off the water. I had to push it a little harder, a little further today than what I wanted to. It was overcast, and man, we were just we were scrapping for the fence to make it happen today. Just one of those days. But anyways, we pushed a little far, and I ended up on the still got me inside the truck. But anyways, check this out, man. The Tar River, it has an anadromous run of fish on stripers and shad, and there are opportunities for stripers all throughout, late winter, spring. Shad usually come make their spawn and run, but there's a perfect little scenario. You get a month or so, shucks, maybe even more than a month. Let's see, late February, March, maybe the first week or so in April. You've got a good 45 days of double dipping shad and stripers. Both of them are on a spawn and run. And man, it happens on the Tar River, it happens on the Noose River, it happens on the Roanoke River. And from a guide perspective, I would probably say the Tar might be the least highlighted. Roanoke gets a lot of credit for shad run and striper run. Noose gets a lot of credit. Tar River's most of you good old boys. They keep it maybe hush hush.
I mean, I follow you. Like I agree that Roanoke probably gets the most limelight this time of year.
Yeah.
And then I would agree with the Noose too. But you're right. I mean, that was part of the intrigue of this podcast, and part of the intrigue of the trip you've taken me on before, where we did the tar and we did both. Yep. So, man, as far as the tar goes, how does it stack up to Noose and Roanoke? Like, what characteristics make it the tar?
That's a good question, and I have guided professionally Roanoke, tar, and the Noose. I fish all 3 systems, and I can definitely tell you that the Tar River is probably the moodiest river that I guide on. And now check this out. Tar River's, I'm going to call it shorter, maybe narrower, shallower river. So what I mean by moody is when you get a lot of rain, it gets muddy quick, the flows change quick. But that's not to keep anyone away. It has excellent fishing opportunities for both shad and stripers. And I can tell you, I grew up, I cut my teeth on the Roanoke. I fished the Roanoke a tremendous amount. Let's take, for example, the past 30 or 40 days, past 30 days on stripers. Everybody's been asking me, hey, Mitch, man, where are you catching stripers at? I have seen a really, really pretty class of fish coming off this system that is kind of raising my eyebrows. Some of it could be where they've shut the striper fishery down for years. This fish are getting bigger. But from a guide perspective, I'm catching some quality fish on the striper aspect. Shad aspect, the other day I had a customer with me, and we hit the stripers. We caught some really pretty stripers, and kind of got into the middle of the day, and I asked him, I said, hey man, would you be interested in trying for some shad? And he said, absolutely. He said, man, I hadn't caught any shooters. Think we can catch some. I've seen a few flick, and we ended up having a really good shad day on hickory shad and white shad. So, Tar River's got a, it's got its flag waving right up there with the noose in the Roanoke system. And like I say, if you spend a little time on it, get to learn it, it can, man, I'm telling you, it can produce some of the numbers that you quote hear from some of the other rivers, and it can definitely produce a quality fish that, man, I would say, man, there's some pretty fish coming off of it.
Well, man, as far as the tar goes, and I guess I should know this, but either remind me or tell me. So water flow doesn't vary from rain alone. It's also a dam release affected river. And, what is your water flow that you like for this time of year for the double dip and striper shad?
Gary, I like, I would have to say high water definitely brings more flow, which brings more fish running. I don't know, maybe makes them more predictable. But if you think about the Tar River, if you've ever fished it, once you get above Greenville, Falkland area, there's some skinny water. I mean, you're not running big boats up there. Let's just say from Greenville down, you're fine on about anything. Much different than the Neuse River and much different than the Roanoke River. So I think the tar kind of warns people away. But if you take time to learn it, man, it can hold some really good fishing. And, from a guide perspective, it's, like I say, I usually fish every system until I find a fish that I can put my customers on that I think is high volume fishing. And like I say, I'm on the tar now, and we're seeing some really pretty fish, good numbers of pretty fish.
All right, man. So it seems to me, I mean, just from what you just said, that when we are talking about a double dip trip, that you like to start the day with stripers?
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes I'll start it with shad and switch over to stripers. Generally, I'll start out with stripers and then flip to shad. That's kind of the way that I would traditionally do it. Just because when you're talking about, like, if you start thinking about February, a lot of people will start getting the itch to get out and catch the first shad. It's always a popular thing, who caught the first shad or the start of the shad run, because it's a phenomenal fishery. And those stripers are there all winter. They're there all spring, making that same run. So generally what I will do is start out striper fishing and then kind of flip over to shad as the sun gets up. A lot of times those shad get really active, and you take anything flashing in the water or small jigs or what have you, you can catch some high volume shad. So that's generally what I'll do, is start out striper fishing and then flip over to shad.
All right, man. So for this podcast, then let's start the conversation with striper, and then we'll flip over to shad. So, again, in my mind, people are watching, listening to this podcast, and some of them want to employ this knowledge and go at it on their own. I think some will be tempted, or even more than tempted, to call you and do this trip. So a standard double dip trip, here in February, late February, March, and maybe into the early April, what's the boat ramp you like to start? And then, of course, we're not asking for specific locations or anything, but like what boat ramp would you start the day at? And then walk me to the process of finding stripers, I guess finding them, and then what you're going to throw at them, the tactic once you find a place you want to fish.
I'll generally start my season out right in Washington at the foot of where the Tar Pamlico come together. And I'll start fishing my way up, late winter, early spring, just looking for stripers, size class stripers, volume of stripers. And I'll generally follow those fish all the way up Greenville, above Greenville, up to Falkland. Once I start hitting Falkland, a lot of times I may back down, or just because that water up there gets so skinny, or I'll switch to another boat if I'm fishing up above Falkland. But like I say, it's I'm just generally finding good schools of fish. I follow them up until I either lose them or they make a leap and get ahead of me. I'll drop back down, find another school, and it's almost like a merry-go-round, following those stripers. Shad to kind of do the same thing. Once they start to trickle, the shad to do they'll start to trickle, they'll do a peak, and then they'll phase back down, kind of thing. So it's use several different boat ramps and just find a good school of fish. If they move up, you move up with them. And when you're on them every day or every other day or what have you, you can stay with those fish until they either make a big leap or you get a rain event and it kind of washes you off those fish. Sometimes you have to drop back and regroup back up, punt, and find another play. But when you're on the water a lot, you'll see those fish. You'll see the movements. You'll see the patterns.
All right. So most of the people listening to this podcast aren't going to be on that water every day.
Mm-hmm.
So help them out a little bit, man. Are you looking for fish visually? Are you looking for fish on your machine? And whether you're looking for them visually or on the machine, like where on the river would you tell us? Like at little creek mouths, at bends, deeper water, shallow water, on the shore, in the middle? Help us in our search.
Here's one thing. Now I'm gonna tell listeners now. I grew up on the Roanoke. That's where I learned to striper fish. I still fish the Roanoke. I took my knowledge from the Roanoke, started it on the tar, trying to learn the tar. In my opinion, I had a lot to learn when I switched over to the tar. In the simple fact of, for example, the Roanoke River's fairly deep river. Tar River's really shallow. I came checking out the tar when I was first trying to learn it, when I was trying to scout it, whenever I was trying to figure out these fish. I, of course, rode the river, looking at the channels, looking at the bends, looking at the ledges, looking at the drop structure, how it flows. Way different than the Roanoke, way different than the Noose. I was looking at water depths, way different than the Roanoke, way different than the Noose. So as I began to fish it, using my electronics, reading the water, looking for the areas that stripers would stage or what have you, what I would find day in and day out is that was probably the hardest puzzle to put together. I think that's why you don't see a lot of anglers, or Tar River doesn't get a lot of credit for what it actually holds. And I'll use this for an example. Just this season, I had a videographer on the boat with me, and he was trying to shoot some footage. And I had been catching fish on jigs and spoons, and we're fishing along, and I look up, out of the corner of my eye, I see this shad skipping, and next thing you know, fish are busting everywhere on the top. And I was like, man, let me grab a topwater plug. We're supposed to be talking about jigs here. And next thing you know, we're throwing topwater plugs, crushing stripers on top. And it's, 50-degree water, 48-degree water, or what have you. And I've seen that scenario play out time and time and time again on the tar. I think with that shallow system, you're more apt on a given day. And I don't care whether it's extremely cold outside or on the warm side. When you're talking about stripers on the tar, you have to be prepared for a lot more scenarios, I think, than any of the other river systems that I have fished. And it's a good thing because you can get a lot more opportunities in a day to do a lot of different things, a lot of different styles that it offers. But from a mental perspective, trying to pattern those fish, it makes you kind of feel like you're a train wreck. The fish on that system, I think they move faster, they move more than the other systems I've been on. For example, over the past 2 weeks, I've been on a school of fish that are, they're 19 to 26, 27 inch fish. And I have followed those fish I'm almost certain it's the same school. We've covered 20 miles in, I've covered 20 miles in 8 days. 20
right.
miles in 8 days. And I can tell you how that worked. I found those fish, was on those fish for a couple of days. I lost them. I took my knowledge from the Roanoke and said, well, they're going to swim upstream. More than likely, because we had a wind event, it pulled the river a lot. So I ran upstream. I found those fish again. I went above them. I lost them. I dropped back to them. I fished them a couple of days and I lost them again. So I ran upstream again and I found those fish. And I've done that, like I say, until the point where they've gotten almost where they're difficult to get. So right now I'm dropping back down to find another class of fish. So it's a unique river system. Like I say, somewhat, I'm going to use the word moody, just because this river's flow is determined a lot on wind events and what is the Pamlico doing? And is it backing up? You know, did we have a lot of rain? The tar may flow hard for a few days. It may stop. It may back up. Tar River's a little bit different in that nature. So it keeps you on your toes scouting these fish or finding these fish. But there's a lot of fish to be had. I'll put it that way.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, man, that was an insight. You just shared. I mean, there was full of experience and knowledge and insight in that answer. But if I were to like nail you down and say, all right, Mitchell, but I want to rechannel your answer and say, I'm going to the tar, I'm putting in, where specifically are you telling me to start my search? Is it in the middle? Is it along the shoreline? Is it creek mouths? Is it bends? Is it shallows like shoals? Is it shoal drop-offs? Like in that time of year, what kind of environment of the river typically is a good starting spot or a couple of starting spots?
I'm gonna give you the I'm gonna hit that nail right on the head, Gary.
I believe you.
Yeah, hey, check this out. It's a shallow system. On a shallow system, more than likely your deeper bends, your deeper areas are going to hold your best concentration of fish. So that's where I would start. You think about this system, it's you know, there's a lot of 6 and 5 and 7 and 8 and 10 foot of water. A lot of 5, 6 and 7, you know, 8 foot. So your bends are going to hold 14 to 18. Springtime, it could be, I mean, today I thought it was going to be 80 degrees today, and I had on wish I had a fur coat. You know, 50 degrees today, 80 degrees tomorrow. So when you get these inconsistent weather patterns like we always have in the spring, start out in your deeper water. Then you can determine whether that fish is on the bottom lockdown. You can determine whether he's suspended or whether you look up and all of a sudden they're busting shad on top. So straight up, I'd go to my deeper water to start, and I would watch what my shallow water was doing, or I'd let the fish tell me if they're going to be shallow that day, and then I would regroup. And I'd also look at my electronics. Everybody's got electronics these days. Everybody's got good stuff. Use those electronics. You can look, you can side scan, you can see. And if you don't know how to use your electronics, hire a guide that uses electronics and let him teach you, or go to a school or get on YouTube and figure it out. Even me trying to learn electronics or dial my electronics in, you know, a lot of times I'll get on YouTube and try to figure out, hey, what is TFG on your Garmin map on the advanced settings? Well, if you get on YouTube, we're in 2022 here. There's 2 things that are describing that function on your electronics. Not a lot of people know about, you know, all the dials and all how to set that thing up. But anyways, you can put it on the default mode and find what you're looking for. But if you know how to use your electronics, you can cut a lot of time out of the game and really dial these fish in.
All right. So now I'm going to hit you with, Mitchell, what do you like to throw? What do you like to throw when fish are on the bottom? What do you like to throw when they're suspended? And then lastly, what do you like to throw when you're seeing surface activity, when you're targeting them on top?
Gary, I'm I'm a striper dude at heart. I've been a striper guide for a long time. That's swim bait, man. A striper loves to eat a shad. He loves to eat a fish. If you got those herring and those shad are swimming by, he's dialed in. That's what he wants, man. I'm gonna give him I love throwing swim baits and lipless crankbaits, and of course you can't leave top water out. Can't leave top water out. And top water is usually something that happens, people associate with late spring or what have you. The Tar Rivers, like I say, I fished a Roanoke for forever, still fish it. I can count on my hands how many times that I've cracked the stripers on top water in February and March over there. And I can tell you how many times a week I crack them on on top water in that same time span. It's they fish act different in the shallow system. There's no doubt about that.
All right. I got follow-ups.
Mhm.
You ready for follow-ups?
Yeah, man.
First on the swim shad. Man, do you have a favorite? And if you don't want to name drop a company, then at least tell me color and size, and then the same thing with the jig head. So people love specifics. Give me some more specifics on swim shad, what you like to throw there on the bottom.
I'm going to throw, if I'm tying on swim bait, a lot of times I'm throwing custom Aaron's baits. Got to give my boy a shout out there. If there's a better swim bait on the market, somebody send me one. Let's put it on YouTube and see.
Color.
You can get lipless crankbait, rattle trap, team rattle trap. Give me a 1/4 ounce rattle trap and go to town. Top water plug. It doesn't matter on top water plug. Just keep it moving. And jigs.
Color of swim bait, and then size of jig head.
Color swim bait. I'll go natural. Match the hatch. I'll go with a natural color. And weight wise, a lot of times I'll throw a 3/8 ounce. I can burn it to get it up top, or I can let it get down in the current if the current's flowing. 3/8 is a awfully universal weight for these river systems. You can make one cast and hit 16 foot of water and crank that thing till he thumps it. He comes up on top. You can throw it and just burn it right across the top, inch under the water. You can get it done with 3/8.
Leader important?
Nope. Straight braid, buddy. That way, if you get a 1 pounder, you're good. Or if you get a shot at a 20 pounder, you're good. If you get a little structure, you can bring it out, bend the hook, get your stuff back. Leader something that folks on my boat a lot of times will go round and round on it. I'll get a lot of anglers on the boat. Hey man, you got to put a fluorocarbon leader on that. I use, if you fish these river systems, stripers are not leader shy that I have found, unless it gets mighty crucial circumstances. But most time, tie it straight to braid. If you got it swimming right, he's going to eat it. And that's all there is to that.
And then I think this is one of my last striper questions before we transition to shad. And the last striper question would be like, what's the class of fish we can expect on the Tar here in the March month? A little bit of February, a little bit of April.
You guys need to go check out my Instagram or check out my Facebook page and see. I don't know, maybe I've just been on a better class of fish this year, but we have been catching consistent. I've had more 8 to 10 pound fish this year than I have in years. Like I say, it could be just because I'm finding those better fish, or I'm digging harder, or I'm hustling harder to trying to find bigger fish. In the guide game, there's always somebody nipping at your heels. You got to stay competitive. So it's either in this game, you're either trying to stay on really big numbers or really good numbers or a really good class of fish. And then you've got that clientele that wants numbers or I want big fish. So it's kind of, you've got to stay on both, but I've been seeing some really pretty fish this year.
All right. So now we've been successful with stripers in the morning. The sun is up. It seemed like that's what you said, like shad sort of get a little bit more lively when the sun's up and it's warming up a little bit. So these fish aren't cohabitating. So I've been targeting deep water on the tar for the stripers. And then I now have a shad frame of mind. What's the environment for the shad? Is it, if they're not cohabitating with the stripers, what am I looking for now when I'm trying to find shad?
All right, we've caught our stripers. We want to try to hit some shad. There's a couple of things. This is going to be pretty interesting as well. Your creek mouths are definitely going to be an option for your shad. Any mixing water is going to be an option for your shad, and any eddy in that river system. Otherwise, you've got flow coming. You may have a treetop and it's kicking a little water back. Those shad will congregate behind it. They'll hold there for you, or at least make it where you can concentrate on them. Now, when those shad are running full peak run, man, you can just walk down to the riverbank and throw it in. It doesn't really matter. But as that bite is ramping up, you're going to want to position yourself to be in the best areas. And that's going to be generally your creek mouths, or like I say, your eddies or little kickbacks in the river, sandbars that create some little current breaks. And that's found by using your eye. That's not really something your machine, your fish finder is going to tell you. Some of your best shad fishermen, you take the fish finder and throw it overboard. They don't need it. They don't use it. They know where they're going. They know what they're looking for by the eye.
And then what do you have tied on the rods for me to throw at these shad?
Traditionally, dart and spoon has been the flavor. It was when I first started out shad fishing 30 years ago, but traditionally now I'll use a double grub. And what I mean by grub is a little crappy grub, a little 2-inch curly tail. I will tie some flies. I'll run a fly and a curly tail, and sometimes I'll run a curly tail and a spoon. Spoons are difficult to find right now, but all of that'll work. And one day want to work better than the other.
So when you put that in my hand, and if you have a couple people on the boat, are you mixing it up? Like I'm throwing something different than, say Billy next to me is throwing, or you kind of have been patterning them so you know that grubs are hot and you're just going to start that unless it's proved different, or do you like variety right out of the gate? I'll
mix it up. I'll let everybody play their poker hand. Hey, everybody put their bids down on what they think is going to be hot, and then divvy it out and have at it. And generally one day, or it may be different in the morning and different in the evening, but one day is going to be different than the next, as far as color goes or what have you. And then it seems like they'll lock into a color, and that color will hold steady throughout the rest of the peak of the season until it falls off. Don't really know what makes that happen. I've seen a color last for a week. I've seen a color last for a month. I've seen a color last for a year. So if you look at a shad fisherman or go into the tackle shop there's going to be 15 different color grubs and 10 different color jig heads that you can use. And that's for a reason. I usually carry about 20 different color combinations, and it'll get dialed down to one. Searching your memory bank from last year, what was the hottest for the longest amount of time? Was it grub? Was it spoon? Was it fly? And then what color? And again, just because it was last year doesn't mean it's this year. I'm just curious what worked best last year. The hottest color grub last year that I used was it was a hot pink shark. It was a hot pink and white grub. And then I had a little fly that I tied. It was actually out of Iceland horsehair, and it had a little bit of just a little bit of marabou, and it had some just about 3 sections of glitter on that thing. And I don't know, that thing would do some damage. It moves so much in the water, but that was just a little custom thing that I had tied, just trying something out. And last year the silver spoon was pretty daggone good. And look, check this out. I started out this year with the pink and white grub, and I think on my 3rd cast I caught a great big white, and then it followed up. We had a really good day this year on that hot pink and white.
Well, man, when I'm on your boat, when we've switched to shad fishing, and I've picked out my 2 hooks, I've put my wager down with the other people on the boat. What's the instructions to everyone, man? Is it cast far? Is it let it sink? Is it to jig, abruptly? Is it to jig slow? Like, how do you guide us? Like, what's the action that's, typically produces the best results?
Long cast, flip that bell over, count to about 4, and put that thing in motion, and go ahead and bring it on back. Steady flow back to you, and if those shad are there, they'll knock it, buddy. They jump. It's a great fish to catch, man. More people should do it. It is an absolute blast catching those fish. They call them they're just like a miniature tarpon. Poor man's tarpon is what they call him. But yeah, I mean, if you see, and you'll see those fish kind of flicking on top. If you're in that area, just throw it over there and flip your bell and start retrieving. Anybody can do it, man. You can take your kid, take him shad fishing. It'll get him hooked on fishing for life.
All right, we are coming to the end of the podcast, but I always like to give like a final thought. I'm going to give you 2 final thought questions. So first one is striper. Any other thoughts that you want to share with us on the striper fishery there in the Tar in the February, March, April months? Anything you didn't say, any question I didn't ask to set you up, or, just the last thought you want to leave our audience with?
February, March, April, if you're coming down here to striper fish, let's just say you come down and don't hit them. Don't give up on the system. I think it's got something for every style of fisherman there is, from the guys that like putting cut bait on the bottom, to the guy that wants to, drift a minnow, to the guy that throws top water, to every style is here. And if you talk to guys on the bank, you're going to run into 5 guys in a day's time that do it 5 different ways. And you don't see that necessarily on the Roanoke and the Noose. Tar's a little bit different in that aspect. The boys that fish it, that have faith in it, they know the fish it produces, have a lot of fun with it. The guys that come and hit it once and didn't get that 100 fish day, sometimes they'll give up on it and shoot on to the Roanoke. But man, I think it's a little diamond in the rough. It's a little diamond that a lot of people overlook.
All right, now same question with the shad fishery there on the Tar. March, maybe a little bit of April. Mitchell Blake's final thoughts on shad fish in the Tar.
The further you go up above from Greenville, Falkland on up, man, it's some great shad fishing. It's got white shad, it's got hickory shad. It's check this out. Being it's a shallow system, and it's not a massive system. So check this out. You don't have a lot of water to fish, so it kind of narrows your odds. Think of it that way. Find you a spot. If you don't have a boat, there's plenty of areas you can access from the bank. There's good kayak fishing. If you got a boat, it's all great. Just get out there and try it, man. There's a lot of fun. And if you get a chance, need a guide, need some help, man, pick up the phone and give me a call.
And then I guess this is my final question. Man, what are you doing? Give us the highlight reel. FishIBX has a lot going on. What are you doing, in April, rest of the spring, summer, fall? The highlight reel, please.
Man, we are turning up the volume right now. Already fishing. Usually I'll start after Valentine's Day, start hitting the shad. We're on the stripers. I'll carry that through right on into March. March is phenomenal. March Madness, man. It blows up. Striper shad, April, striper shad. Man, we put the wheels on the road and roll with it. As you can see, man, we're just winding up a trip. I know I should have been in the office, but man, we're fishing. Fishing rods are here, boats hooked up. I'm getting her to hose it down, right back at it in the morning. So man, we try not to let it stop, man. Just keep rolling, keep pumping, keep grinding.
Got it. Mitchell, I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed watching the sunset. I've enjoyed having you reflect on the tar. And I mean that. There's no joking in that, man. And I like that you both give us practical information, and then you gave us some reflection as well, like the bigger picture. And I appreciate it, man. This was a good podcast.
Absolutely, man. If you guys need me, give me a holler. And check this out. That fish that y'all had with John King, we caught that on my boat. And let me tell you a story behind that. Look, I had been striper fishing, and the day before we had zeroed. I was like, John, they're gone, man. John said, really, but I want to catch some stripers. I said, bud. I said, all right, let's go do it. And we went, and it was a phenomenal day, man. They started chasing stuff on top water, boom, 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 boom. And we caught some nasty stripers that day. But yeah, I mean, you don't ever know until you go. And yeah. I appreciate you guys having me, and anytime.
All right, Mitchell, man. Have a good night, dude.
Y'all do the same. I'm going to go grab me something to eat and respool some rods and get it ready for tomorrow.
All right, man. Talk soon.
See you, buddy.
Billy.
What is going on, Gary? Good episode, man, as always.
So, Billy's best takeaway.
You know, I think my best takeaway, and it's because Mitchell said it several times, is the tar is a shallow body of water. And so don't be afraid of topwater fish in the wintertime. For striper, I was like, dude, that sounds fun. Like wintertime, topwater, you know, because everybody's don't do that in the winter. But he's saying, hey, it's shallow enough. They're there. Try it. See what happens. So
I had my best striper topwater day ever on the boat with Mitchell Blake.
There you go.
They were crushing it. It was a fun morning. It was a great time, man. It was a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I like that he's out of the box. I like he's doing some different stuff, and you know, he does fish hard, man. He does push it, and I do like his delivery. I mean, his delivery is, you know, I mean, he made me work a little bit to get some specifics out of him, but it's not because he doesn't want to share specifics. It's just that, you know, he's thinking about these bigger pictures and bigger ideals, but you know, that's what makes this podcast fun for me, is like seeing where his thoughts would go and then doing my job to bring him back to give my people some specifics, but still enjoy the ride.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and he's got a well-oiled, you know, machine. I remember seeing him at shows and everything else. Very professional, getting it done, keeping that boat busy. So it's always a lot of fun. Well, Gary, I want to give an opportunity because we've talked about this big announcement. We've already made it once or twice now on different channels. But we do have a new membership opportunity with weekly fishing reports. So I'm going to turn the camera over to you and let you tell us a little bit more about that. And then I'll come back and close this thing down.
All right, man. I'll be happy to make a pitch. So here's what's new in Fisherman's Post. Here's the big news for Fisherman's Post in 2022. We are getting back to our roots. We are offering weekly fishing reports online. And when Fisherman's Post started in 2003, that's how we branded ourselves, weekly fishing reports. The business model no longer makes sense to offer it in the newspaper, but I've always wanted to return to our roots, which is weekly fishing reports, quality reports. And now online, we're going to be offering that. You know, so what we're going to do is we're going to have these fishing reports online only. They're not going to exist in print form. You know, you can watch these fishing reports, you can listen to these fishing reports, but they are going to be online behind a paywall. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of energy, you know, some investment to make this happen. So we have to put these weekly reports behind a paywall. But there's good news. The good news is that while the price will be $100 a year or $10 a month, to try to get people excited and try to generate some early support, we have what we're calling a charter membership. So for charter membership, you can access these weekly fishing reports for only $50. So $50 is good for the year. And what's even better is come next year when it's time to renew, if you've signed on early to support us on this charter membership, then next year will be 50. In fact, every year will be $50 for you, as long as you don't expire, as long as you keep renewing. Now, a little bit more on the reports, so what we're going to do, and, this is our first year. I'm sure we're going to build on it, but our first year, we want to just make sure we can deliver on our promise. So they're going to be inshore fishing reports only. We're going to be talking to our inshore guides, our inshore sources. So this first year, I don't want you to pay and then be complaining because we don't have offshore. We're just not offering it. We are going to be covering our whole area from North Myrtle Beach up through the northern Outer Banks, but it's going to be inshore reports only. I don't even think we're going to have surf and pier in this first year, unless the response is phenomenal. And then we will certainly match that energy by cranking out more. But for right now, weekly fishing reports, inshore fishing reports. April through October, from November to March, we're not going to keep up weekly. It's just not necessary. So we'll do bi-weekly reports, but we'll also add in additional premium content so that you're getting something new every week. We want you to feel like you're getting value every week from this investment. And so you'll just go to Fisherman's Post, you click on premium content. There's links that give you more information. There's links that let you register, and there's links that let you access. And again, starting in April, but you want to get in now at the $50 rate. And that's my impromptu pitch. Billy, how'd I do?
You crushed it, man. I'm running over right now to sign up. I'm jumping down, and it's going to be in the show notes too. So all the links, description, all that stuff will be, if you're watching the video, below the video. If you're listening to a podcast, it's going to be in those show notes, show descriptions. So you guys can go check that out. Excited to work on another project, expand the Fisherman's Post podcasting, audio, video. So it's going to be really fun, man. Excited to get rocking and rolling, but we do need people to sign up. We do have a goal to launch this in April with a certain amount of people. So if you like what we do, want to support it, want to support the show, this is one of many phases that Gary and I, our big brains, have thought about as we grow this medium in this media. So really looking forward to it, Gary. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I agree.
And also we love is we're not abandoning the podcast or any of that stuff. We're still grinding on. We got Marine Warehouse Center on for 2022 and Bland Landscaping Co. for 2022. And we're going to keep pushing out this free content as well. So if that's what you like, continue to do it. But if you want that more insight and more in-depth fishing report, then definitely go over there and check it out. And we really appreciate our sponsors for making this show possible. And Gary, this is our 101 episode, which is still crazy to me, even after last week of being 100 episodes. So high five long distance, man. We're making it happen.
Yeah, man. I mean, every now and then I like to pause and say, man, we've accomplished something, and then, get right back to work. So, last episode with 100, we certainly paused. Now we're back to work and enjoying the work. And I can tell you that, man, I already have like a slew of guests signed up for 2022, a slew of captains, a slew of topics. And I'm excited, man. And, it's going to be fun. The podcast is great. It is basically what gave us confidence to move forward with the fishing reports. And so just as the newspaper still gets my love, the tournaments, the schools, the podcast, the fishing reports is just added to it. Everything else will certainly get our full attention, our full effort. We don't like doing anything unless we, do it as best we can.
That's right, man. Well, Gary, appreciate you, man. And we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, man.
Fisherman's